I mean, how did you feel when I just didn't do it or wasn't willing to go along with it?
That was hard because I was disappointed. I was thinking maybe he doesn't really love me or doesn't want me. And then for us to not even talk about it afterwards, I was thinking maybe he doesn't want to meet my needs. He's just focused on what he wants.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marriage Tested.
Love approved.
I'm Chris,
I'm Kendall.
and we are the Salisburys. This is now episode 2 for us, but I just wanted to start by saying thank you. The responses we've received, the encouragement, the support, it's been amazing, overwhelming to a degree. And thank you for jumping in with us. So,
Yes, thank you so much. It's just been so positive. We've just loved interacting and just hearing from all of you. So thank you so much.
yeah, we had no idea as we kind of jumped into this what would happen and how it would be received. Thank you again. It's been super, super fun. And even preparing for it has been great. So we're going to try some new ideas and introduce a couple new things to the podcast. And the first is what we're calling approved or denied. And this is sort of the highlights, lowlights of the week, things we've tried, ideas, you name it, but we're going to do approved and denied. Kendall, why don't you go with your highlight, lowlight?
I would say that my kind of denied was this past week. I went to Washington, D.C., which was actually approved or a great, great experience being able to go and support a wonderful foundation called Hope for Stomach Cancer. The part that was difficult or kind of the denied was the traveling. I haven't been traveling a whole lot going through my cancer journey, but realizing how much chemotherapy has been affecting me. So traveling by myself was really hard. I normally have Chris with me. He's kind of my sidekick when I travel.
And navigator. I'm a pretty decent navigator.
He is an amazing navigator. I'm not so great at that. So I had to figure out a lot of that on my own. And being able to be on a plane and, trying to figure out flights, actually on my flight home was really hard because of a snowstorm in Washington, D.C. They had to de-ice the plane, which made us late catching my next flight. I had to run through the airport. Luckily, I did catch my next flight, but because I was on a small plane, I couldn't move my legs. And by the time I got home, my ankles
Were kinkles. They were.
couldn't even see my ankles or my feet. They were just swollen so badly.
I was a little worried because you were gone, what, 4 or 5 days?
Mhm.
There's a lot of walking, a lot of busy agenda.
Yeah.
I was concerned how physically this would wear on you to travel. And then I love you, sweetheart. And I was rubbing your legs, but I don't think your ankles disappeared.
Yes.
So they were
No,
really
I
swollen.
agree. They were not there. So I didn't realize the toll that traveling would take kind of on my body. It was hard, but it was such a great, great experience. So I would say also my approved was that experience, meeting just so many wonderful, wonderful patients, caregivers. Just the whole experience was wonderful. There was one thing during the Hope for Stomach Cancer event that I wanted to share for my approved. They had this theater company come in and act out what it felt like to kind of have cancer or act out people's stories of cancer. And so they would have people share kind of their journey of cancer, and they had different actors act out different parts of it. And what was amazing is someone would share, like, this is how I feel. I feel sad. I feel angry. This is what it feels like to have cancer. And suddenly the actor would portray it. And it touched me so much because you go through this journey of cancer and you're like, my stomach's so upset, or I just don't feel good. And I can say that, but to really have somebody visually display it was just incredible. I mean, I just had tears just running down my face, and just actually visually see it was just incredible.
So,
Yeah. So that was definitely, I would love, just to be able to see them again and just be able to share that experience with other people that are going through difficult times and going through cancer journeys.
and we plan on supporting these foundations, being involved. I know for you and for me, being an advocate for more cancer awareness is a big deal. It's part of our life now,
Yeah.
and we're going to embrace it.
Check out hopeforstomachcancer.org. They're just an amazing organization. And then this coming weekend, we're going to Washington, D.C. Chris is going to go with me this time.
Yay.
And we're going to support another amazing stomach cancer organization called Debbie's Dream Foundation. We'll also include their link. And they also support stomach cancer and research. And we'll give more information after our trip.
A new chapter of our life with new people and new connections we had no idea was going to happen.
Absolutely. Thank you for supporting me on this journey.
Totally. Not a question at all. What's interesting is my approved and denied, somewhat related. On the denied side, and I was 100% thrilled that you were going, completely supported it. But the reality is I was home while you were gone, and we didn't take out the trash, forgot to water the plants. Work was really busy, so we ate out a lot. I didn't really cook. I kind of failed, I guess, in some ways. And unfortunately, because of the cancer situation, we do think about death, and we talk about death more than we ever have before. And kind of a denied for me was the glimpse of what's ahead. And I try not to go there very often because it can get really dark. But to be alone, and we had talked about being empty nesters. Our youngest is only a couple years away from graduating, and just going and living abroad or doing different adventures. And now, because of your illness and the disease, I kind of looked at, I'm going to be home by myself. And there were many times I would roll over and kind of reach out for you just unconsciously because I was asleep, and you weren't there. And so it gave me a little bit of a glimpse, and I'm going to have to step it up. Not that I take you for granted, because I don't, but I do realize sometimes how much you do and how much you're kind of the glue of what keeps our family going and keeps the house going and a lot of different things. So with you gone, it was a bit of a wake-up call or a bit of a glimpse into what's ahead. And I didn't really like that.
Well, some of that is I realize I enjoy serving. And so I like doing things around the house, but realizing I do need to put some of that responsibility on the boys, or having you guys do more things around the house, or maybe leave kind of a schedule of when the garbage man comes so that you guys remember to take the trash cans out.
Lots of reminders in my phone. That was my takeaway. Lots of reminders in my phone. So that was kind of our denied, at least my denied experience. On the approved side, though, however, I've got to talk about her. This is my new pickleball paddle. I refer to as her. It's my new mistress. And this paddle, I don't know if you can see that. It's a carbon true foam. Shameless plug. But it's been amazing. This paddle.
Baby.
Oh, this is my baby. And she's so good. I have to talk dirty to her and keep her. I mean, it's been so fun playing with this paddle. So that's definitely my approved, is it has seriously helped my game. And I love it to death. So now I have a whole new part of my addiction that totally works. So that was my approved. A little silly, but it was
I'm
a big highlight.
okay for that you can spoil her sometime.
Okay. So
at least now I know where you are on Saturdays and Wednesday night.
Not hard to guess. I'm at the pickleball court. So, all right. So that's kind of just a fun way that we want to go through highlights, lowlights, share with us as you're going through yours. We'll do this on occasion, probably most episodes.
Fun to have you guys share some of your highlights and lowlights, maybe some of your approved and denied.
So for this episode, in each episode, we try to have a topic, and it helps us kind of structure, but also share stories. And what we wanted to talk about is communication, especially as you're building a foundation for your marriage, for your relationship. A key piece of building a really strong foundation that can handle the storms, that can handle the challenges, that can handle change, because life is about change, is communication.
So just to kind of share my background, my parents divorced when I was pretty young, and so I was raised by a single mom. I didn't date a whole lot. I worked a lot during high school, and then I was very independent, just kind of did my own thing.
And for me, it was a little different. Being tall, things came very easy. I had a lot of success in school and sports. And so I didn't have to be very assertive. I didn't have to start conversations. Friends came easy. I just went with it. My communication style was very different. I would say laid back. Whereas with you, it's get stuff done. You have an agenda. You're very responsible. That was some very different communication styles coming into our marriage.
I mean, even the guys I dated, if they, you know, didn't really communicate or I didn't really like things that they were doing, I just would break up with them.
Peace out. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Done. And you didn't have to really worry about anyone else because you took care of things yourself.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
Our first year marriage was rough. We didn't know each other. We got married very, very quickly. We didn't know how to communicate. The other thing too is I grew up in a house of all boys. So mom was like one of the dudes. And I didn't realize that things that I would say would come across so harsh or so critical. Because with the brothers and even my friends, you can be kind of mean and playful and hard. But then in 20 minutes, you're fine and everyone's okay. And so hanging out with the guys was easy. Now that I'm in a marriage relationship with my wife, who's a woman and communicates very differently than me, that was a completely net new concept to me. And one kind of quick story from our honeymoon, kind of showing how this worked or how it didn't work really, was the pool. I mean, you remember the pool.
Oh, yes.
So as
very memorable.
We went from virgin candle to now married, and on our honeymoon, and I remembered it very vividly, we're in the hotel pool, we're making out, it's evening, so it's late, but I can see all the balconies, and there's some people sitting on the balconies.
Well, the hotel kind of surrounded this beautiful pool. So all the balconies kind of faced this gorgeous pool.
Yeah, it was like everyone's looking at us. At least that's how I felt. And as we're making out, you're like, let's do it. Let's have sex right here, like right in the pool.
Well, that was my idea or image was from movies. I mean, how many movies you see people like having sex in a pool?
And it's really hot and crazy and, just go for it.
Got this hot husband. It's our honeymoon. Why not? Right?
For me, I was totally panicked, like shocked, like, oh my gosh. It literally went from thou shalt not pass, do not touch, to buckle up, buddy. Let's, ride him cowboy. Let's go. And that was hard for me. And that was hard though. And in the moment, I totally failed, like completely failed. I was frozen. I was so concerned about everybody else.
Yeah.
And now again, looking back on it, one thing I think where we failed in communication, we never really talked about it. And even when we were engaged, since sex was taboo from a lot of our teachings from the church, we didn't have the kind of conversations, the deeper ones that we needed. And so here we are on our honeymoon, exploring this for the first time. I had no idea that sex in a public place was going to be a fun turn on for you. And I completely froze. The other thing I think too, and I'd love to hear your perspective, because I know you saw it a little differently, is we didn't talk about afterwards. I think that was a mistake. So even in the moment, okay, you can have disagreements or you're not aligned. That's fine. That's going to happen. But we didn't talk afterwards. And that kind of created some friction. I mean, how did you feel when I just didn't do it or wasn't willing to go along with it?
It was hard because I was disappointed. I was thinking maybe he doesn't really love me or doesn't want me. And then for us to not even talk about it afterwards, I was thinking maybe he doesn't want to meet my needs. He's just focused on what he wants. So you're right. That communication breakdown was very difficult for us. And we didn't talk about a lot of those things.
And it really was kind of a gap or struggle that we had. And it took us years, Kendall, to really honestly, openly talk about intimacy, sex, and other things too. But that's just kind of one good example and illustration. Gosh, I wish we would have really started talking openly and not take it so personal. Like, this is what I want. That's okay that you have different feelings than me. It's okay that you want different things than me, but we didn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what it did, it kind of created a barrier, or it separated us or created some friction. And so,
But being married, you think, well, we're married, we can talk about anything, but sex was still a very kind of taboo thing, even though, yes, we were having sex, but were we really talking about
no,
it? No.
we weren't talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely say we weren't talking about it. And and the communication, I didn't know how to communicate to you and with you. It took a while for me to figure that out.
Well, and another thing that kind of happened, and I kind of touched upon it, was just that I was very independent. So I kind of just did my thing. And so even though being married, that was kind of a struggle for us at the beginning of our marriage, because I just was so used to, like, if I needed to go to the store, I needed to go do something, I just went and did it. And there was one experience that we will always remember.
Yeah, I remember very clearly. This is a good one.
I'm not sure why we were in two different cars. I think maybe we were meeting up or something.
After work. I think it was after work.
Maybe that was what it was. So I was following Chris. He was in his car and I was in mine. And we were going to meet my mom. And we got off the freeway exit and he got through the light, but I missed it. So I was just there at the light. At the time, I was teaching special education in American Fork, and I really needed to call this parent about their child about something. And it was his parents' exit. And I was, at the time, we didn't have cell phones, but I was thinking, oh, his parents just live right up the street. I could just run really quickly and just run up to his parents' house, use their phone, call his parent, and then I could hurry and just go meet Chris and my mom, which is exactly what I did. But I didn't have a way to tell Chris, and I thought, oh, he'll be fine. I'll just go do it. So I did. But by the time I got to meet Chris and my mom, Chris was really upset.
Well, it was like 30 minutes later. We knew where we were going, so we had planned the destination. We were going there together. I didn't see where there was a deviation.
I had not told him I needed to call his parent, nothing. All he knew is I was right behind him. We were going somewhere. So when I showed up, he was really upset.
I didn't feel like I was involved. And there was times early in our marriage where I'm like, hello, there's another person in here. You have a spouse, you have a husband, you have someone. And a lot of it was because I was worried.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was no reason for you not to be with me. So I start worrying, is she in an accident? Did something break down with the car? This was before cell phones too. So it wasn't like, hey, I need to do this really quickly. So there was a major gap of what the hell just happened.
Yes.
And even early in our marriage, because you were so independent, which again, I think is a very big strength of yours, you can get things done. You're very motivated. You have amazing willpower. But finding a way to communicate and involve that other person in decisions that impact them was hard for us.
Yeah. Well, and I realized, could I have called that parent later or at another time? Absolutely. But in my mind, I was so focused on that and not thinking of the other person, not thinking of you, and realizing I needed to communicate with you better. So we did have some struggles with that. Luckily, I learned.
You did.
I did better.
Of course. and that's part of it is understanding how your spouse operates, how they communicate. On the flip side, for me, I learned too, is not to take everything so darn personal. When I'm frustrated, I get upset and I vocalize stuff, but it's not at you. It's more at the situation. So there's just ways that we had to start learning. But if we talk before, during, and after, I think that would have helped smooth things over much, much faster.
Well, that's something I learned is there were times where Chris would be upset at the beginning of our marriage, and I thought it was towards me, or I thought he was upset with me. And I did learn that it wasn't towards me. He just was upset at the situation. So that was something I learned, that I didn't take it personally. But at the beginning of our marriage, absolutely, I did take it personally. I really thought that he was, you know, he didn't love me anymore. He was upset with me. It was very difficult. It was hard for me to
And
take that.
it's so interesting too, Kendall, because you and I are still very different people. I'm very vocal. I'm very expressive. I say stuff.
Emotional.
I'm emotional. And I do. Sometimes I don't think much. I just let it rip, and you're with me, so you're in proximity.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in many ways opposite. You're reserved. You're very careful. You don't open up a lot, especially early in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was times where I'm like, honey, let the walls down. Let
Yeah.
me in. Talk to me. But because you were so independent, that was hard to let down the walls. So even those communication styles were very different early in our marriage. And I think of how far we've come. And now we're very vulnerable. Now we really get into some deep conversations without looking at it or feeling like it's a criticism. It's just how you feel.
We really have come a long way. One way that we've really built our relationship and our communication styles is through love languages.
This was to me, major breakthrough for us.
So the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman, when we were struggling with our communication, I started reading different books. So identifying what our love languages were really helped our marriage. But what we missed, though, and even though we identified what our love languages were, how we express them, we didn't realize how we received the love language. So we were sharing and we were giving out our love by our own love language. So what I mean by that is, like, for mine, my love languages are acts of service and quality time. So I would clean the house and I'd go, look, Chris, I cleaned the house. Well, his love languages are
words of affirmation and physical. So I want to hear, I love you, Chris. That's what works for me.
Yeah. So I kept thinking, oh, I cleaned the house, or I did these acts of service. And he's like, why aren't you telling me you love me every day, every minute of the day? So we realized that even though I was doing these things, which were my love languages, I needed to focus on what his love languages were. And so once we identified that, that really changed our relationship. It really helped us identify how to help, and, the receiving and expressing love languages, it really helped us.
I was feeling the same disconnect from the opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would tell you, I love you. And I tell you that all the time because that's how I express love. That's how I receive love. So when there was times where you're like, I don't feel like you love or appreciate me, I'm like, I tell you every day, why is this not connecting? But it wasn't through service or it wasn't through quality time, how you receive love. And so I had to learn, when I serve her, then she feels it.
Well,
then she knows it.
Well, it was funny because there were times where, like, I wanted him to, change the fire alarm or change a light bulb.
Thinking smoke detectors. I hate those
Just
things.
Like simple little things. But he would put it off for like 3-4 days and it would drive me nuts. And he's like, it's just a simple little thing. But for me, it was that act of service that was really important to me. So in my mind, I'm like, he doesn't love me anymore, over a smoke detector, but realizing once he figured this out, he's just like, oh, wait a minute. She's just wanting some service, acts of service. So,
and that's a great point, because to me, it wasn't a big deal, but to you, it was a big deal. So I had to learn, this is a big deal. Even though I don't think and receive love the same way, I need to do this so she feels it. And I'll even give you a more recent example, and it's with the cancer to a degree, because I feel like I need to take some of that burden. And I want, and I feel a tremendous privilege and honor that I get to serve you, because I know there's times where you don't feel great. But then you'll say, hey, let me fix you lunch. And I have the impulse, no. I don't want to add burden to you. But I'm like, wait a minute. And I've had this thought multiple times. I need to let her serve me because that's how she expresses love to me. So I don't want to deny you that opportunity. Even in this situation with cancer, I need to let you love me, which I kind of like.
I mean, that's really, ways that I enjoy. I love serving. Even like the boys, sometimes they're like, I can do it. But that's something I really enjoy. I love serving my family. And I want to keep doing that as long as I can.
For us, this was a major breakthrough. And maybe that's the call to action. That's your homework assignment for the listeners is if you haven't done this before, we would highly encourage you, find out what your love languages are, how you express them, how you receive them, but also your spouse, and have that conversation. Because a lot of times I felt I'm in trouble and I don't know why. Why isn't she feeling loved when I tell her all the time? Or, we make out or we're cuddling, like she should so know, but I was missing it because I didn't understand your love language.
Yeah. And I was the same way. Like for me, physical is not one of my love languages as much as it is Chris. But I really had to make an effort to do more, like more than I normally give, because I know that's a really big one for a physical touch is a big one for him. So even though it's not necessarily my love language that I give out, I really made an effort to focus on that one for Chris. And I think that's something that we really wanted to kind of give that out to our listeners is identifying what your partner's love languages are, because it might not be one that you express, but identifying your partners, you might have to really make an effort and focus on that to help support your partner, because I think it makes a big deal.
And
really supports them, and they will love it.
And I have to, now I thought of a story that I haven't thought for a while. And this may be a good way to wrap up because you did really make an effort. Remember when we went on the family vacation with my parents and my siblings to Hawaii?
Yes.
And we were sitting in the airport, fully making out all over each other.
We were laying on the airport floor, like making out.
And grossed them out, and they all laughed, and I haven't thought that in a long.
Oh yeah, they left us.
Yeah, because we were totally making out on the airport, the gate.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. So anyway, but you made a huge effort, and it's a really fun part of our marriage now. And the reason we wanted to bring it up is the communication. If you're communicating in the way that your spouse receives love, they'll feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can be communicating and still at the same time not hit the mark.
We appreciate you guys listening. We're excited to continue this journey with you. Follow us on our different social media apps. Please add your love languages and what you learn from your partners. And we're excited to see you next week.
Yeah, don't be bashful. Let us have it. Like ideas, thoughts, crazy stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. This is Marriage Tested.
Love Approved.
Till next time.
Bye.